have been times where I'm there serving, and I have an encounter with an individual who maybe isn't so charitable in his approach to me, and certainly isn't appreciative of the work that I'm doing. And my mind very quickly goes to this idea of these selfish thoughts, really, if I'm being honest, of, here I am giving up of my time to serve this person, and they're not even grateful. But thankfully, very quickly, my mind then switches to say, am I doing this because I'm going to get something from them? Because I'm going to get praise or appreciation? Or am I truly doing it somewhat anonymously, of just serving the person because they deserve to be served, they deserve to be loved in the best way that I can give to them, regardless of how they're going to receive it, or whether even they receive it with open arms or not.
It's that selfless aspect, right? It's not about getting something in return. It's not about what's in it for me and how I feel. A lot of it reminds me of that passage in 1 Corinthians 13. We read it in weddings all the time, and it sounds sweet and nice during weddings, but how many times do we look at it and we say, am I doing these things? Am I putting this into practice? And kind of looking at that example, like Christ really did all these things. And I think it took me a while to realize that, like, there's such a thing as brotherly love. We talked about philia, but like this brotherly love that he just wanted the best for me, and just wanted to make sure I was okay, and just wanted to enjoy my company, no strings attached. But not in the sense of like being like careless or responsible, but as in like, let's just be friends. And again, like that's not something I had experienced, because in the world, like in society, you think like when someone's that nice to you, they want something, or they're in it for something else. And then to realize that that wasn't the case, like I was like, this is how it's supposed to be, like this is how it's meant to be, and realize that it's possible.
So we've mentioned some ways of practicing that with individuals, where we're reminding ourselves to be selfless, right? That we're not doing it for ourselves, but for them. It strikes me that another way we might be able to practice that is by loving anonymously, in the sense that we can do things for others without them even knowing who did it, right? And I think that that's probably somewhat challenging. I can think of a few times in college where my buddies and I might go about doing something. I don't want to mention it too much because that whole idea was that it was anonymous. But the idea of like doing stuff for others without them knowing, maybe it takes the form of like sending a care package to somebody, but not putting who it came from or anything. This idea of loving and serving others, but making sure that they didn't know who it came from. And it was a practice, an exercise in making sure that we weren't going to get anything in return, even recognition. And I got to tell you that it was very difficult, especially the first few times that I did something like that, because it's almost like every time you see that person, something in your head wants to be like dropping hints that you might have been the one that did it, right? Or at least to even hear their response to it, to know that they liked it or whatever, because then it makes us feel good that they appreciate it. But it's definitely a challenge, but something that I think a lot of us could practice more often.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. No, it's a good idea. Sometimes when we practice loving in little ways, such as washing up the dishes that no one else wanted to do, or taking the trash out, or simple little acts of kindness, like we start building up on that, and it's kind of like we're getting like a love workout just by doing these little things, and it will lead us to do even bigger things later on, and bigger things. So I like that little anonymous acts of kindness.
Yeah, and it ties into our idea of athletes and that idea of discipline. It's every little thing that we do, the diet that we take in, and also the exercise that we put out, right? The things that we do to practice, but also making sure that we're not letting, these twisted forms of love pollute our minds, right? And to distract us. And the ultimate idea is that we're trying to reflect God's love. God created us in a disinterested love. He created us for no reason other than the fact that he thought it was worth, creating us. And so hopefully we can start putting some of those little exercises, those little practices into our lives, so that we can get better at loving in a truly disinterested and altruistic way. Thank you so much, Blanca, for being here.
Thanks. It was a great discussion.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us. We hope you'll catch us next week on Wild and Free, The Way of the Body.